This show is called Drawing on Nature because I'm very influenced by the patterns in the natural world and have the privilege of doing a lot of social change work in the rest of my life outside of the studio. And what I've learned from almost 20 years of that is that it's really important to respond to the things that are happening around you, but I think that there's a bigger opportunity to really change the energy of what's happening out there by investing most of our time in the world that we really want to see. All my work is done on rice paper. So it looks like fabric, but it's actually paper that's about as thin as tissue paper. I work with different kinds of threads. One of my favorites is mohair. I try and buy a lot of local mohair from local farms, and most of it's hand-dyed. And then I use different embroidery threads. You can see that the embroidery thread makes a really strong line, and the mohair is a lot more blurred. And I like the difference between the way those show up on the work, so how they look really different and create a different feel. So one of the things that I try and do is create kind of a sculptural piece. So I stitch thinking about the back of the work as well as the front of the work. And in these lighter pieces, you can see the threads that run on the back of the piece. And what I try and do is create lines that will support the front. So being really intentional about the way that all those lines connect when you look at the work when it's framed. There's so much really interesting research around the impact of trees. So trees, if you have a tree near your house when you're growing up, it has the same impact as having an additional $10,000 in your family income. So I love making trees so that families can have more of them around them, because so many people don't live near a forest, which we're really lucky to be around forests and the woods here in Maine. So I have always been really inspired by abstract expressionists, and in particular the color field painters. And those were painters that painted in the 50s and 60s here in America. There's a woman painter from DC that is so inspiring to me, and her name is Alma Thomas. But I also am a big fan of Rothko. And then here in Maine, more contemporary artists, I am really inspired by Anna Hepler and other people that use printmaking to really create a foundation for thinking about our relationship to one another and to the rest of the world.